Good evening everyone, I'm Vishal Salsekar and today we are going to cover the News Today articles for 25th of May. So in today's discussion we are going to cover 5 important articles in detail. The first article is regarding the Bharat Audyogik Vikas Yojna, which is a BHAVYA scheme, right? So we'll talk about how it is going to contribute towards the industrial development. Next is regarding the challenges faced by peacekeeping operations. So we'll talk about what exactly is the peacekeeping framework, how there are certain challenges that the peacekeeping forces right now are facing, specifically pertaining to the funding, pertaining to the governance related issues. Next is regarding the private participation in the defense sector. So we'll talk about what exactly is the nature of participation of private sector in the defense related collaborations, what is the present status and what are the future possibilities, even about what government is doing in this particular regard. Next is the World Health Assembly resolution on the antimicrobial resistance. So this is one of the major challenges that the world health is facing right now. It is regarding the antimicrobial resistance, right? So we have already discussed multiple articles regarding the antimicrobial resistance, but now we are going to see what exactly is the World Health Assembly's resolution in this particular regard. Lastly, we'll talk about the India's first geothermal power plant. So we will talk about the geothermal energy, how it is going to contribute significantly with respect to the development of the energy from the sustainable sources, right? After that, we are going to discuss certain quick articles. So let's start the discussion with the first article regarding the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, DPIIT, released the guidelines for the implementation of BHAVYA scheme, right? So since it is about the industry, it is about the trade, it is going to be going to ensure the development of the industrial corridor type of thing, right? So it is going to ensure the development of economy in general, and that's why GS paper 3 it is important. Apart from that, GS paper 2, government policies and the intervention, this is an important article. Now, what exactly is the context? So the context is that this particular scheme has been launched. So Bharat Audyogik Vikas Yojna, which is the BHAVYA scheme. Now what type of scheme is this? This is the central sector scheme. So pertaining to the subject mentioned in the union list, and along with that the funding is mainly going to come from the central government. Now which is the nodal ministry, because UPSC keeps on asking regarding this concerning ministry or concerning department. So Ministry of Commerce and Industry and Department for Promotion of Industries and Internal Trade, DPIIT. Next is what is the objective, that what this particular scheme intends to do. So this is going to transform the country into globally competitive manufacturing hub. So it is going to create the competitive manufacturing hub, which is going to ensure the plug and play system. Means a corporation can come, they can directly utilize that facility for the development of the trade, for the manufacturing and many other things. So it is going to create a globally competitive manufacturing hub, so that the manufacturing status is going to get boost in India. Apart from that, it is going to ensure that there will be sustained investment that are going to come. And when this particular sustained investments are going to come in the country like India, it is going to come only when they are going to find the infrastructure, they are going to find the capacity building, they are going to find that there are facilitations available at the India level, and this particular thing is going to be there, and it is going to be the possibility when there is all these facilitations comes at comparatively lower cost, and then only the investments are majority that will be ensured in India. So easily grounded their investments by deepening the domestic supply chains and increasing the employment. And once the investments are going to come, they are going to ensure the employment generation also. They will further ensure that there will be reinvestments, there will be value creation, there will be employment generation. All these things are going to be part of this. Now, what this scheme intends to do? So this scheme is going to create 100 plug and play industrial park. Now plug and play industrial park, basic facilities will be there, basic manufacturing hub will be there, basic things which are needed for the manufacturing hub creation, all these things are there. So basically now the corporations are going to come, they are going to invest and they can utilize these facilities. So like you are utilizing, just say, let's say you are going to maybe any of the pottery workshop. So you will see all the things available at that particular place. What you have to do? You have to craft a pottery out of that. So all the raw material, raw ingredient we are going to provide. Now you have to ensure the plug and play. You have to utilize those facilities. Now, apart from that, duration कितना है? So duration is 6 years. 2026-27 से लेके it is 31-32 तक. Now outlay 33,000 crore. Generally UPSC might not ask these, but pertaining to this particular year's paper, UPSC can sometime ask, but generally you can have an approximate idea about these particular things. Eligibility kya hai? Greenfield and the eligible brownfield industrial park. Greenfield means the new developed industrial park which are going to be created for this purpose, and the eligible brownfield which are already there, where there will be certain type of modification, and then you can utilize these. And these will lie under the part of this scheme. Minimum land requirement कितना है? So generally it is 100 acre for the non-hilly states, and for the hilly states 25 acre, because obviously the land constraint in those particular region. Northeastern states, union territory and the smaller states के लिए the criteria is 25 acre. Permits the larger park, basically ऐसा नहीं है कि it is containing only till 100 acres. It is also allowing कि भाई if there is a larger park that can be established, so 1000 acre तक में the provisioning is going to be provided. Now apart from that, what is the funding framework? So the funding or the financial assistance is provided through the National Industrial Corridor Development and the Investment Trust. So this particular trust responsible for the industrial corridor development. So this is the industrial development that we are going to talk about. So this is the going to be the authority or the nodal authority we can talk about. Funds kitna hai? 1 crore per acre in the equity mode for the each project, right? Except for the private developer. So 1 crore per acre. Per acre, this is the cost. Now, what type of infrastructures we are going to talk about? There will be some core infrastructure, there will be roads, there will be information and communication technologies, there will be administrative systems. Now see, these are the plug and play thing, means all these things will be available. Now the corporation have to come, they have to put up their investment, and then they can utilize these facilities. So it's like the renting of the facilities. Value added infrastructure kya hai? Ready-built factory sheds, warehousing. So this can be developed as per the requirement. Then the social infrastructure, worker housing, support amenities. So basically you can get all these type of facilities available. Just what you have to do, you have to invest in that particular region. Support for the external infrastructure up to 25% of the project cost will also be provided. So government is facilitating for the boosting of the manufacturing in India. Implementation framework kya hai? It is oversighting agency, which is the national level steering committee chaired by the secretary DPIIT. Right, so secretary is going to chair this national level steering committee. Project management agency kaun si hai? National Industrial Corridor Development Corporation. Apart from that, there is a special purpose vehicle. Special purpose vehicle, it's basically like to share the risk. There are different parties who are going to come together. They are going to jointly put up the investment. So industrial park will be implemented and the professionally managed by the SPV, incorporated under the Companies Act of 2013. So there will be SPV created where different parties who are going to put up their money, and eventually they can utilize that particular amount of that particular thing in the jointly in different projects. But then SPV for one project, there will be one SPV that is going to be there. Next is the United Nations peacekeeping. So the development and the trends in the multilateral peacekeeping operation 2025, which is a fact sheet released by the SIPRI, which is the Stockholm International Peace Research Institution, right? So from the perspective of GS paper 2, entire peacekeeping aspect is important because it is important from the perspective of multilateral frameworks. There are different multilateral framework. Also, we are talking about the United Nations at the rate 80, so that's why also this is an important article. Now, talking about what exactly is the context, so SIPRI, which is the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, which has highlighted that the peacekeeping at the international level right now is facing difficulty. Why? Because there is a data providing that right now there are only 58 active peacekeeping operation, and this is the lowest since 2016. So 2016 say this is the lowest, and it is going on in the 34 countries since in 2025. So basically it came below threshold, which is the 60 operations, uske below aa gaya hai, it is now 58. Now what are the challenges faced? Because see, when there are issues, when there are less number of the peacekeeping operation, that means there are certain challenges. Now what are these particular challenges? First is the funding shortfall. So if there are no funds, how you are going to sustain these particular peacekeeping operation? Because you need to provide the money, because those countries which are going to provide their forces, those countries need to pay for their soldiers, right, which they are providing, and that's why the funding is needed. But the funding is irregular. So there are the donor countries which are not paying their dues. So United States like country, they have not paid their due, and which is more than $2 billion, and that's why there is a funding shortfall. Next is the geopolitical gridlock. Geopolitical gridlock basically is that there are sometimes the vetoes are being utilized. Just say, what is exactly the framework of the UN peacekeeping missions? So first of all, there will be sanction of the peacekeeping mission by the UNSC. Once the mission is sanctioned, the budget and the other regulatory aspects are going to be provided by the UNGA. overall administration, and then there is going to be the secretariat. So secretariat is going to administer the day-to-day task. So these three organizations are going to be part of this. Now, if there is any type of veto that is utilized by the United Nations Security Council, in those particular cases, chances are high that it cannot be utilized properly, या फिर उसे mandate ही नहीं मिलता, and that's why it is facing difficulty. Like US is pushing for the termination of the missions like the United Nations interim force in Lebanon. So if there is termination, if there is veto, then obviously this particular mission are going to face difficulty. Then defunding of the regional missions. Now the countries or the regions are trying to think, bhai dekho, this is not the region of our interest, and that's why we are going to divert our forces, we are going to divert our money to the other regions. And that's why, like the European Union redirecting its European peacekeeping peace facility funding from Africa towards the Ukraine and West Asia. So basically, जो पहले अफ्रीका के लिए यूज हो रहा था, now it is going towards the Ukraine and West Asia. So that's why the funding diversion is also there. Apart from that, ad hoc intervention, so different countries are coming together and they are jointly planning the mission, not under the mandate of the United Nations peacekeeping forces. It is differently from that, and that's why it is also one such issue. And lastly, the unequal burden of on the global south, because if you have observed one such trend, that generally the countries which are providing the forces are the countries of global south, whether including India, Bangladesh or any other country. Major top 10 contributor जो military के हैं, they are from the global south, and that's why it is a major issue from that particular regard, right? So unequal burden है, generally the countries which are providing funding are not providing basically the troops, right? And that's why it is issue. So United Nations peacekeeping, basically what it is, so it began in 1948. There was the truce supervision of organization in the Middle East. So in the Middle East, 1948 mein, once Israel declared its independence, so basically after that there was a major conflict arose. There was Arab-Israel war, and after that there was the United Nations truce supervision organization that was established. And after that, different region specific, there are different organizations were established, right? So principles kya hai, based upon which principles they are functioning. So the first important principle is impartiality. They are not going to be partial towards one country. So they are going to be the neutral missions, they are going to be impartial. Secondly, consent of the parties. So basically whichever country they are going to be going for the creation of the peace or ensuring the peace, they should be taking the consent from that particular country. Aisa nahi hai, these are the invasive forces. So there will be consent principle. And thirdly, it is regarding the no use of force. So these particular peacekeeping missions mein jo forces hain, they will not utilize the forces until or unless it is being utilized for the self-defense. So these are the three important principles. Deployment kaun karta hai? United Nations Security Council. Now peacekeeping missions kaun se? Now UPSC keeps on asking about this, and these are certain important peacekeeping missions. For example, there is United Nations mission of the support in the East Timor, right? Operated from 2002 to 2005. Then there is UN stabilization mission in Haiti, operated from 2004 to 17. Then there is United Nations mission in the Central African Republic and Chad, 2007 se 10. Then mission in Liberia from 2003 to 18. And then lastly, United Nations Military Observer Group for India and Pakistan. This was deployed in 1949 after the first Indo-Pak war, after independence, right? Next is regarding the private sector could transform India into a global defense manufacturing hub. So the Raksha Mantri, Defense Minister, have highlighted the contribution of a private sector once he went for the inauguration of the private sector facility, and that's why he highlighted that the incorporation of the private sector and the active contribution is going to ensure the rising of the stature of India as the defense manufacturer, and specifically the private industry can contribute significantly. Now GS paper 3, indigenization of technology, defense technology, it is important. GS paper 2, from the perspective of government policies and reform, this is important, right? Now talking about the context, what exactly is the context? I have already discussed. So the observation was made by the defense minister during the inauguration of the defense manufacturing complex of a private sector company, NIBE group in Shirdi, right? Now Suryastra is the India's first 300-kilometer universal rocket launching system. So it is the Suryastra, right? So just have an idea regarding this particular term, Suryastra, which is basically the 300-kilometer universal rocket launching system. Now, what exactly is going to be the significance of the private sector participation? Because it is diversifying the defense manufacturing. What it is doing, it's not only now the responsibility of the government or the public sector undertaking, it is the active participation. Because in different countries, those who are the defense manufacturers, you observe that there is a active participation from the private sector industry, and that's why they are are doing good in this particular regard. So fostering the economic resilience and the national security. Agar suppose karo if there are diverse actors available in order to contribute in a defense manner, so basically whenever the countries or different countries which are trying to utilize the weaponization of the trade and the supply chains, that particular thing can be prevented. Now India can reassert its power, right? And that will happen only when there will be active participation by the private sector. Next is empowerment and the employment, because once there will be industrial establishment, this is going to create job, this is going to create new opportunities, this will invite the investment, and that's why it is important. Next is the defense research, because jab aapke paas industries hongi, when there is a active participation from the private sector is also going to put up the money. So jo R&D wala factor hai, which is comparatively low as compared to the developed country, this particular research and development, including the technological aspects, can increase, and that's why it is going to be a very important aspect. Next is the defense entrepreneurship. So it is going to avoid the bureaucratic hurdle, because see, if there is going to be the active participation from the private sector industries, so basically there will be more and more private sector, and in order to liberate or in order to provide them more avenues, you have to reduce the bureaucratic hurdle and or the red tapeism. Lastly, promoting the indigenization, because already we want to achieve this particular target to become the major defense exporter, and in order to achieve this, we want the active participation from the private sector. Now, target kya hai? 3 lakh crore in the defense production by 2029. This is the target that we have taken. Now, private sector participation in India's defense sector. Right now, what exactly is the status? So, current status kya hai? Roughly 25 to 30% with the objective to achieve 50% in the coming year. So, right now it is 25 to 30%. We want to achieve it by roughly 50%. शेयर कितना है? 2024-25 में डिफेंस एक्सपोर्ट रीच अराउंड 15,000 करोड़ फ्रॉम द प्राइवेट सेक्टर्स एंड 8,389 करोड़ फ्रॉम द डीपीएसयू. दिस इज रिगार्डिंग द एक्सपोर्ट, नॉट द डेवलपमेंट. Lastly, the robust defense industrial base. So 16 DPSU over 430 licensed companies and approximately 16,000 MSMEs. So basically you can assume that MSMEs, private sectors, are contributing with respect to job. If they get more opportunities, they will be able to contribute more. And that's how we can do the defense indigenization on one side and the employment generation in the other side. Now, what are the reforms or the policies that were taken in order to boost the defense sector and the private participation in the defense sector? So liberalization of FDI. So FDI has been liberated to 74% through the automatic route. Means there will not be any bureaucratic hurdle in this particular regard till the limit of 74%. Then priority for the domestic procurement. So there are certain sectors jahan par there is the domestic procurement that have been incentivized. So capital item from the domestic sources under the defense acquisition procedure 2020. Apart from that, industrial corridor, which are the defense industrial corridor specifically in Tamil Nadu and the Uttar Pradesh, and then acting industry as a partner, means ensuring that the private sector industries are also taking in the participation along with the DPSU. So that will ensure the collaboration, that will ensure the joint research development, that will ensure the defense excellence. So the innovation for the defense excellence, right? These are certain important aspects. Next article is regarding the 79th World Health Assembly concluded in Geneva, right? So from the perspective of UPSC GS paper 2, there is a health, social justice, there is a portion of health. This is very, very important. Apart from that, GS paper 2, international relations, international institutions or the multilateral framework. This is another important aspect. Some time back, there was WHO, which was there in news, and whenever there is going to be any pandemic or major issue, World Health Organization and the World Health Assembly will be in the news. GS paper 3, science and tech in the health. That is also important aspect. Now, what exactly is the context? So it is held under the reshaping of the global health as a shared responsibility. Means the health is the responsibility of all. It's not like the responsibility of only the population. It is the responsibility of different sectors, right? And that's why it adopted multiple resolution and the decision on the issues including the antimicrobial resistance. So we are going to basically focus mainly upon the antimicrobial resistance. So there is a global action plan GAP on the AMR, antimicrobial resistance, for 2026 to 36. 10-year ka global action plan hai. We'll talk about that. So it is the second edition of the GAP AMR, global action plan on the antimicrobial resistance, which builds on the decade of implementation of the first plan, which was adopted in 2015. Now, it is the second plan that we are talking about. It's not for the first time they are taking. Now, what exactly the targets that they have taken? Aim kya hai? Attainment of 2024 UNGA target of 10% reduction in the bacterial AMR associated deaths in the human. So basically antimicrobial resistance related deaths in the humans, reducing the AMR in agri-food system, antimicrobial use in the agri-food system, because see, this is how the antimicrobial things are going to reach to the human beings. And once human is exposed to this particular antimicrobial products, then the resistance against those particular antimicrobial, maybe any type of drug or any other type of thing, starts getting developed in the human being, and that's how this particular thing can become the antimicrobial resistant, right? In the agri-food system, minimizing the environmental pollution from the resistant microbes by 2030. Now, technical support kahan se milega? WHO with the FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, United Nations Environmental Program, and the World Organization for the Animal Health. So they are going to jointly contribute with respect to the technical support. Now, what is the antimicrobial resistance? So antimicrobial resistance is a broader term which includes the bacteria, virus, fungi, the parasites, right? So these category of things are part of this, which are like, suppose karo, if you are, let's say, exposed to certain type of microbes in the smaller quantity, and let's say you are getting infected by them and then you get sick, and once you are being provided with the antimicrobial, let's say, drugs, maybe antibiotics, antifungal things, right? So these things are not going to function anymore on you, because you are already got resistance against those particular type of medication, and that's why it is dangerous, because now the medications might not work on you. So no longer respond to the antimicrobial agents like the antibiotics, antivirals, antifungals, right? So this is the antimicrobial resistance. Now there is a data, it can cause up to 39 million death by 2050. You can note this data, you can utilize this data in your answer writing. Now, what are the initiative that the India has taken? So there are India based initiative, जैसे National Action Plan on AMR, NAP AMR है. Apart from that, there is a red line awareness campaign. So on the medicine or the drugs, there is a red line which shows that it is a drug which is the drug which is important from that particular perspective, jahan pe this drug should not be provided over the counter in order to prevent these type of issues, right? Globally, WHO's global antimicrobial resistance and the use surveillance system GLASS, right? So this is the global initiative. Now other resolution which are adopted in this particular assembly, resolution on the radiation and health. So this is radiation, basically exposure to the radiation. So it talks about both the type of radiation, ionizing and the non-ionizing radiation. Basically both are getting differentiated based upon the frequency and certain other features, right? To strengthen the national system for the radiation protection. Apart from that, strategy on the economics of the health. So economics of health, basically because of the not able to get the adequate health care and getting out of pocket expenditure, this is also being talked about. So outlines the action to ensure that the health is systematically integrated into economic, fiscal and the industrial policy, right? So this is also important. Now there are 6 steps or the 6 objectives that are taken in the global action plan for the antimicrobial resistance 2026 to 36. What are these? First is awareness and the behavioral change. So make the people aware regarding not purchasing the over the counter type of medicines, right? Without any prescription, always get the medicines or medication after prescription. Then the surveillance and the laboratory strengthening. So ensuring the surveillance system, because unknowingly sometimes you get exposed to certain type of antimicrobes and then eventually you will be resistant to that. Then infection prevention and control. So to prevent the infection, there may be certain preventive steps that you can take: hygiene, vaccination, sanitation. Equitable access and the stewardship. So ensure the access to the quality antimicrobial. Generally hota kya hai? Initially we take low doses, then the higher doses, then the highest doses. So if we take more the lower doses wala, there may be a chance that our body might get resistant towards that. Now we have to take the higher doses and then eventually we get exposed to that also, and then our body gets accustomed to that also. So in this process we get the antimicrobial resistance. Research and innovation, promoting research and innovation, and lastly the governance and the financing and accountability. So strengthening the system so that the governance, in general coordination, all these things should get strengthened. The last important article that we have to discuss is regarding Ladakh to host the India's first geothermal power plant. So in Ladakh, there is a very high potential of the geothermal energy, and that's why Ladakh it is going to be a pilot project which is being sanctioned by the Lieutenant Governor of Ladakh, right? Now, GS paper 1, geography, because geothermal energy. Then GS paper 2, government policy. GS paper 3, the convention, the infrastructure development. Apart from that, renewable energy. This is an important aspect. Now, what is the context? So, like I have already talked about, कि Ladakh Lieutenant Governor approved a 5-year extension to the MOU with Oil and the Natural Gas Corporation (ONGC) to set up the plant at an altitude of which 14,000 feet in the Puga Valley. Now, under this particular revised MOU, ONGC will establish 1 megawatt pilot geothermal power plant and prepare a detailed project report for the large-scale commercial exploitation. Right now, we are doing it at pilot scale. The small quantity of the energy will be developed out of this, but then it will provide the prototype for the larger development. Now, geothermal energy क्या है? The energy which is available in the crust of the earth, so we can exploit the energy or utilize the energy which is available in the crust of the earth, because when we go downwards, the heat increases, right? The temperature increases, and that energy we can utilize. Now, how you can utilize? There will be, let's say you are digging up the well, you get the hot water, you are taking out that particular hot water through the vent, that hot water set steam banega, that steam is going to provide the power to the turbine, that particular turbine is going to be rotating, and then eventually it is going to generate the electricity, and then water gets cooled down, and through the vent it is going to get down. So basically this is the entire process in very simple terms. So what it is going to consist of? Multiple component including production, re-injection in the wells and the pumps, transport pipelines, distribution, heat exchangers, and the end use application where you are going to utilize. Sources क्या है? High enthalpy sources where the potential is very very high. Means active volcanoes के पास या ऐसे resources where you can get very high temperature. So volcanic region, geysers, hot spring primarily for electricity. Low to medium enthalpy resources, so hot rocks, shallow ground layers, better suited for the direct use application. Means there you will not get that much where the steam will be coming out at that rate, जहां पर आप बहुत ज़्यादा potential से turbine को move कर सकते हो, right? Now potential in India, there are many sites which are identified by the Geological Survey of India that identified 381 hot springs where we can utilize the geothermal energy. Now, with the surface temperature ranging from 35 to 89. Now, you can assume that it's not that much temperature, but it can be utilized in order to generate the electricity. Identified 10 geothermal provinces in India. Himalayan hai, the Himalayan geothermal, Andaman and Nicobar. Like this, there are different geothermal provinces. Potential kitna hai? More than 10 gigawatt, right? Roughly 10,600 megawatt, like more than 10 gigawatt is the geothermal power ka potential. Mainly Puga and the Chumatang, like mainly in the Ladakh region, and then there are other regions also. Now, there is a national policy also for the geothermal energy. So, it is establishing geothermal energy as a major pillar for India's renewable energy landscape, right? It is going to contribute to 2070 net zero goal and energy security. Basically, we have previously talked about the nuclear energy, we have talked about biofuels, right? So, all these are going to contribute in this particular direction. Means less carbon resources or less carbon type of energy. Now, these are the major geothermal hotspot. You can observe that this is the mainly in the region of Ladakh, then rest Jammu and Kashmir, then there is Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand where there is a hotspots available, then in the regions of Rajasthan like the Sohana, then Gujarat mein available hai, Dholera hai, there is Tuwa, there is Tulsi Sham, there is Unai, then in the Maharashtra and the Gujarat border, there is the regions like the Ganeshpuri is there, then Salabardi is there, Suraj Kund hai, Sonata hai, Taptapani, all these type of resources or the locations are important and talks about the a vast potential of the geothermal energy. Not this, there is the northeastern region also where the northwest and the southeast Himalayan arc also that is there, that also provides the potential. Now see, the production is difficult because the terrains themselves are difficult, but yes, if utilized properly, then this can create the large amount of geothermal energy. Now benefit kya hote, why we are emphasizing a lot on this? Because see, reliable source of the base load renewable power, because see, generally these particular plants have comparatively no fuel cost or very low fuel cost at the same point of time, achieving the high capacity utilization factor. Capacity utilization is very very high. इसके अलावा availability means roughly जैसे होता है ना कि solar energy में during the night time you will not get that much amount of energy, so that thing is also getting reduced over here. It is even more than the coal power plant because in the coal you have to keep digging the new coal, right? Then the oil and gas industry में भी help रहेगा because the drilling is going to help in order to achieve that particular type of drilling expertise, and where the sector of the oil and gas industry that can also improve. Apart from that, the lower life cycle greenhouse gases, because the greenhouse greenhouse gas generation is going to be comparatively low emission site specific renewable source suitable for the need for the remote and the interior locality. But the problem with this is that the cost for the initial extraction is going to be high, and the region where we are going to explore this is going to be the difficult one. That's what is the major issue. Now, having discussed about the important articles, now let's talk about certain other quick updates. Let's talk about them quickly. The first in this is regarding the Education to Employment and Enterprise Standing Committee. Right now, the first meeting of the high-powered Education to Employment and Enterprise Standing Committee was recently convened where Niti Aayog. So first thing, important fact, Niti Aayog. Next, when it was originated, so it was originated in the Union Budget of 26-27. Purpose of proposed its establishment. Objective क्या है? Purpose क्या है? The purpose is to help achieve India 10% of share in the global service market. So see, we are taking the target of 2047, achieving the Vikasit Bharat by that point of time. Now, in order to achieve that target, we have to ensure the employment generation. We have to ensure all these things, including the service sector ka development. We are focusing upon industrial development, but the service sector where we are having advantage, that should also be exploited or utilized. So 10% share in the global service market, including the education, skilling, employment, entrepreneurship with the emerging economic opportunities. So these things have to be explored. Now, it is chaired by the CEO of the Niti Aayog and representation from the union, state government, industry and the other experts. See, Niti Aayog, when we talk about this, it is also one such feature for the cooperative type of federalism, cooperative and the competitive federalism of India. And that's why different type of center, state and the other bodies are taking participation in the initiative. Next is the cold water fishery. So cold water fishery, generally where you are going to find the cold water at the higher altitudes, right? And that's why the cold water fishery sector is emerging as an important pillar of the blue economy, because since it is the fishery sector, part of blue economy. Where it is situated? Placed at the high altitude, snow-fed rivers, stream, lakes and the reservoirs, right? So comparatively at the high altitude region, Jammu and Kashmir, Ladakh, Himachal Pradesh along with the hill district of West Bengal, Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, these are the regions jahan par this is going to be utilized more. Now contributing nearly 3% of the land fish production in India. So overall fisheries ka 3% is going to be contributed from the high altitude fisheries. Key cold water fishes कौन से हैं? Mashir है, snow trout है and the Indian hill trout. These are the important. So these are certain important facts that you should be knowing. It is supported by the initiative like the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojna, a prominent scheme regarding the fisheries development. Then the fisheries and the aquaculture infrastructure development fund, which is going to provide the funding for the fisheries development. Next is the hypersonic missile. So recently Russia used the Audyogik hypersonic missile during the Mars drone or the missile strike against the Ukraine. Simply the hypersonic, which is having the hitting capability at the speed of more than 5 Mach. 5 times of the speed of the sound, right? So it is the self-guided strategic weapon, means once you have launched this, it follows the parabolic path. But apart from that, generally it is utilizing the navigation also during the path. So basically it will become very difficult to track. So achieve the parabolic trajectory, arcing trajectory, spending most of its flight in the unpowered free fall. So generally rocket engine use kiya jata hai, and that is utilized, that is giving it thrust. Once the thrust is achieved, now there is already speed available, and that particular speed is maneuvered by the on missile tracking, right? So missile that travel at speed greater than the 5 Mach while remaining in the maneuverable during the flight, right? Unlike the traditional ballistic missile, many hypersonic missile can change direction mid-flight mein, making them harder to track and intercept, right? Next is regarding the natural gas. So recently Oil India Limited discovered new natural gas reserves in Rajasthan. Very important and very much needed from the perspective of India. Now the discovery marks the first ever confirmed gas presence in the Sanu formation in the Dandewala field, right? Now mainly composed of methane. Apart from that, there is small amount of natural gas liquid, non-hydrocarbon gases which are not the hydrocarbons, and CO like the CO2, water vapor. These are also available. Now estimated reserve कितना है? 1000 billion cubic meter, with the largest reserves being the western offshore region. So if this is exploited properly, if this is a successful thing, then eventually we will get the large amount of natural gas extracted within India itself. Next is regarding the Uniform Civil Code. So simply the Uniform Civil Code is the type of code jahan par different religion mein, across different religion, the same type of civil laws are going to be applicable, right? There are certain states in India jahan par civil code or Uniform Civil Code is applicable. One of the earliest is Goa. Recently, there has been in the Uttarakhand, and apart from that, Gujarat have also implemented that, right, in the limited manner. So government has highlighted the special provisions that have been made to exclude all tribal communities from the ambit of the UCC, thereby ensuring full protection of their customary rights. So for the, not based upon religion, but based upon certain ethnic consideration. Common law applicable to all. This is the Uniform Civil Code. Constitutional provision क्या Article 44 DPSP में, right? Part 4 of the Constitution. Now, no nationwide implementation, specific instances. The earliest one is in Goa, where the Portuguese code is applicable, right? Pre-independence का code है, that too. Treaty on the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons, NPT, right? So India has not joined NPT as of now, right? So it was in 1960s mein this particular treaty was signed. So there is a 11th review conference of the parties on the treaty on the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons, NPT का full form, concluded without agreement on the consensus outcome of document, right? It is the international treaty. Objective क्या है? This particular treaty segregates the nuclear nation and the non-nuclear nation. It talks about N5, which are the permanent 5 member of the United Nations Security Council, and this particular treaty recognizes that these are the only 5 countries with the nuclear weapon. Other than that, no other country is entitled to possess the nuclear weapon. It does not talk about the disarmament per se. It says that these 5 countries possess, and that's why these countries are the nuclear nation, other are the non-nuclear. Other countries cannot create or develop their own nuclear weapon, but they can do the technological collaboration with respect to nuclear energy. So it creates to some extent nuclear apartheid, right, against the countries which are not part of the permanent 5. International treaty whose objective is to prevent the spread of nuclear weapon and weapon technology, promote the peaceful use of nuclear energy, and further goal of achieving the nuclear disarmament. Objective hai, but ultimately it is not talking about how and when these particular permanent 5 are going to shed their nuclear weapon. Establish safeguard system under the responsibility of International Atomic Energy Agency. Verify the compliance with the treaty inspection conducted by the IAEA. Binding in nature, open for signature in 1968 and entered into force in 1970. Members कितने 191? Has India joined? No. Because this particular treaty discriminates against those particular country which possess the nuclear weapon, but then this treaty do not give them the status of the nuclear nation. Next is the Paratas Island. So there is a Chinese Coast Guard ship that was spotted near the Paratas Island, right? So it is situated in the South China Sea. So in the northern part of the South China Sea, this particular island is situated. So it is also known as Dongsha Island. Small group of 3 islands ka group hai, which forms the coral atoll, right? Coral is basically a type of formation in the sea and the ocean. You will observe when you will see regarding the coral reefs. Located in the South China Sea, governed by Taiwan. So it is governed by Taiwan, and recently we have spotted the Chinese Coast Guard ship. It is characterized, this particular island is characterized by the circular atoll structure. So like this, there is a circular type of atoll structure. Beach mein there is the water field, and then here there is the coral reef that is available on the side. So it gives the like जैसे mountain जो volcano होता है, volcano का top होता है, like this it is available. Circular and atoll structure. Dongsha Island being the only island above the sea level. There are other 2 islands, but they are submerged, like the North Vereker Bank and the South Vereker Bank. Contested between China and Taiwan. South China Sea, China is contesting with many countries. There is a prominent line which is known as the 9-dash line. So there is a 9-dash line, and this particular 9-dash line is the line which China claims that entire region within this particular 9-dash line belongs to China. Other islands कौन से South China Sea के? Spratly is there, which is under the control of China. Paracel is there, and another is the Scarborough Shoal, which is in contest with the Philippines, right? So these are the major islands. Next is the foreign portfolio investment, FPI. So total FPI outflow from the equity market crossed 2.22 lakh crore rupees so far in 2026. So total FPI outflow, this is talking about outflow, not the FPI coming, but FPI going. So FPI क्या है? Basically it is the equity investment less than 10% of the equity of that particular corporation. So any investment made by the person residing outside India, so that should be the resident outside India, through the equity instrument, means he or she is purchasing the shares. Investment less than 10% of the post issued paid up share capital. 10% से कम equity होना चाहिए on a fully diluted basis of the listed Indian company, or less than 10% of the paid up value of the each series of an equity instrument of a listed Indian company. Means 10% से कम होना चाहिए, or less than 10% of the paid up value of the each series of an equity instrument. Security and Exchange Board of India, SEBI, is the governing authority of FPI. through the FPI regulation 2019, it was amended in 2022. Short-term investment done to diversify investment. Unlike FDI, because FDI may it is more than 10% and generally it is for the long duration research, development, innovation. All these things are part of FDI. FPI, unlike that, is just to diversify the portfolio. It is in the short term manner and it is in the equity less than 10% of the total paid up capitals. Last article is regarding the information agent. So Google unveiled the information agents, a feature built to search the monitor the web. So just assume a scenario. You want to get a task. Let's say you want to check the prices of a share, that if particular share crosses up that particular price, you will get an alert, right? So generally there are apps that are built for that, but then you will have this particular extension jahan par whatever task you want to perform, if there is any development regarding this, let's say any new war in the world. Now, if you have made this particular type of agent, so basically that particular agent is going to inform you if there is any new conflict that emerge in the world side, right? So a feature built to search and monitor the web. Apart from Google, Microsoft and Meta are also working on this. So what it is persistent background process that continuously scan the web, social media, news outlet, finance data in real-time sources on the user's behalf. For you only it is doing, and then it is going to give you alert whenever anything significant happen. So something relevant surfaces, right? It is the type of agentic feature that works best when it is fed with a lot of user data, can use the user data feed for the edtech industries, accelerate the automatic traffic on the internet. So basically what it is doing, it is searching the web for certain things, and then eventually if it gets those particular things, then it will alert you that it has happened. Now this is the time to buy something, sell something, or do something, or take certain action, but in a real time manner. So the delay speed is going to get reduced, and that's what is basically the information agent. So with this, we have completed the News Today articles discussion for 25th of May. I hope whatever we have discussed is clear to you. We'll meet again in another set of discussion. Okay? So thank you everyone. Have a great day.